Why don't we just start, because you study a variety of martial arts, right? You've got karate, tai chi, you do boxing, you do all sorts of different things. So my question to you, as someone who has gotten to know you over the last few years, is all the martial arts and all the arts that you've studied and practiced, if I were to say to you, Lee, you could just pick one and one only, which one would you choose to practice and how come?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, that's a great question.
I'm gonna win. No, I'm kidding.
I can take the easy road and just say there is no best martial art, but I'm gonna take the more complicated route and look at it like this. I don't really think that the way that I did it was the wrong path because I started in Taekwondo. It's a traditional martial art, so very traditional. So they taught us fighting, but they also taught us all the other aspects of martial arts that are also important. They taught us balance and patience and control and perseverance and indomitable spirit and things like that that made us that helped us they gave us the foundation to go on. So when I learned a different martial art after Taekwondo, when I learned karate or when I learned kickboxing, I was able to pick up on it very quickly because I had a basis. What my trainer would say is it doesn't really matter what you learn as long as you learn something. He says if you want to master something, then master one thing. And then when you master that, you have a blueprint of mastery that will allow you to, you can superimpose that on other styles and learn those other styles because you have a methodology from beginning to mastery that you can follow.
Okay.
So
So,
start in something. I would say start in something that can give you a foundation, something that can give you a base. It could be traditional martial arts that give you a base, or it could be one of the newer martial arts, like jujitsu or something like that. That'll give you a base. Or wrestling could give you a base too. It depends on the teacher and how it's taught to you, and how you absorb it and how it's applied to make you into the type of martial artist that can learn something very easily, something else that's similar but different.
so, it's really interesting. It's almost like you're taking a base and then you're starting to integrate and add layers of different arts to that base, right? So as you're working through that progression and that integration of new skills, kind of the same way like a language is always changing, right? Like, they always add new words to the dictionary, whatever, whatever. So if you're taking like a base foundation from one martial art and building up the other ones, is that the same way? Like maybe the language grows and changes. Like does one art take from the other and integrate it, or is it always just compartmentalized and kept solid? Is that what you're doing that's so different? Like you're integrating it, or like can one teach the other, or do they take from each other?
Well, yeah, they're all. I guess they say that there's many ways to the path, right? Many ways to the same path. So they're all ways to the path, and to get to the path, these different styles took a different turn. So I try to find what I did find was I was taught the commonality between all the different martial arts. Basically, I was taught a commonality that I can find, or that I did find within all the martial arts that I study, and then from that commonality, I stitch something to the front, stitch something to the back, I stitch it all together. Just like Latin, lots of the words, lots of the English language, the words are based on off of Latin, and you can figure the meaning of the word out by looking at the base word, the root word, and seeing what's put to the front of it and what's put on the back end of it. You figure it
So
out.
you're stitching it into something new and different, or you
I'm
just
I'm creating something extra, like a compound word, instead of the word being one word. I'm putting two words together, making a compound word. I'm expanding the language. I'm making new words, like Beyonce making up the word bootylicious.
okay? All right, okay, I'll buy that. Would the masters in the different arts go along with that, or would they consider it some sort of an appropriation of something that belongs to them?
Well, I saw a saying one time. It said, don't seek to be like the masters of old, but seek what the masters sought." So I think that they were trying to find, they did have a blueprint to follow, but they also at the same time were trying to find, the ultimate martial art or the ultimate style as well. So they were assimilating things. They all knew different martial arts as well. I studied Taekwondo with General Choi Hong. He was the founder of the style of Taekwondo that I studied, and he was also a black belt in karate, that type of thing. So they studied each other. Lots of the Aikido studied judo, judo studied Aikido. Lots of styles already met a long time ago, and they influenced each other.
Okay, I see, I see. Just taking a whole different tack, you have taught women's self-defense, and I've always been curious, and I've always wanted to ask you a question. I never have until now. What got you interested in teaching women's self-defense? Like, how did you get involved in that? Like, what motivated you to get involved in that field?
That's a good question. I think my dad and I used to have lots of conversations about women's self-defense. Um, he always says, he always said to me, if you put the weapon, the means to defend themselves in the hands of the oppressed, then they will use it to defend themselves. Basically, he says that everybody has a weapon. I don't want to put words in my own father's mouth, but it sounded like he was saying if everybody has a weapon, then the people that want to attack will think twice about attacking because the person that they're attacking will have a weapon to defend themselves. So it's hard to attack someone that can defend yourself. People want to attack someone that they think is defenseless, but if the person isn't defenseless and they can defend themselves, then the person won't be so quick to attack them.
Yeah. How long have you been teaching the self-defense?
But as soon as I started martial arts and the teacher let me do a class, it became self defense. But so I've always taught self defense, but officially, like professionally, long time. Still got my black belt, probably since then. Yeah. So for years and years, my whole adult life, I've been teaching self defense, and it's just a natural evolution. In martial arts, one of the first things you learn is self defense. The first move you learn in martial arts is self defense.
So, and then in particular, you've been teaching women's self-defense. So what is it, what would be different for women to learn self-defense who are usually smaller, not as strong as their attacker? Not to say that they couldn't be attacked by another woman, but usually, the role is the attacker is someone who is bigger and stronger. So what do you tell women in self-defense? Like, I've been told, like, throw your purse at them and run. So what's the method? What should people be doing? Or, because you've taken a self-defense course, not to feel totally invincible, or what is the first thing you teach women in a self-defense class?
Well, first of all, self-defense doesn't usually happen the way that we envision it. We think that it's going to be some crazy person rushing out at us with a weapon raised over the head to slash us or whatever to hurt us. But it doesn't always happen that way. Lots of times, self-defense occurs. Especially with women, they could be on a date or something. They could just be out with someone that they know that does something inappropriate or wrong, where they're not going to break his hand or break his wrist or break his neck or kill him or you know what I mean. So they have to evaluate the situation. So you have to assess the situation, and that's not even the first step. The first step is avoidance. So if you can avoid a situation, then to avoid a situation, you must first have awareness. So the first step is be aware, just awareness. The psychology is the most important part. The mental aspect is the most important part. Physical self-defense is that's the last resort. And if you have to resort to physical, you've already lost. But now it's damage control. What can we do after the fact? But if you can use awareness and cultivate awareness, you might be able to see something developing before it develops, and nip it in the bud. They say that martial artists, the big thing about martial artists, the difference between someone that's trained in martial arts and someone that's not, is a martial artist might intervene quicker when something's developing because they have confidence in themselves, so they'll intervene and before it can escalate to something out of control. A trained martial artist might find a way of controlling the situation or intervening.
So the key is awareness, and then the next step is,
Avoid.
self-defense, avoidance and self-defense.
Right, and then
Yeah.
assess the situation and see where what level you're gonna take it to, because there's different levels in your defense that you can use. Is it gonna be lethal, or is it gonna be, mild or medium? Where you're gonna take it to, that type of thing, right? And then you want to understand how the person's gonna react to what you do.